Hi again, guys. I promise that I won't make you watch videos of me for every question, every discussion question for every module. Um, but again, as I said in the other video, it feels like a little bit more personal way to engage with you around your responses to the discussion posts. So I wanted to offer just a few thoughts. It's not going to be as extensive as the last question, but a few thoughts around question number 2 for module 2. And you guys were asked to respond to Wallenstein's quote around, "There's no good reason to believe that there will be a simple and unitary relationship between a particular neurotransmitter or receptor target and any psychological state." So I notice a lot in your posts that many of you are talking about the fact that we can't sort of have a one-stop shop, like one size fits all, um, for clients, that clients are going to be impacted in a variety of ways because their experience of their psychological distress is going to be experienced in a variety of different ways as well. And a lot of you are speaking to that informing your work as a counselor by making sure that you're mindful of the unique experiences that clients are going to bring to you as a counselor and having the flexibility to be responsive to those unique experiences that they have. And I think another piece too that probably connects back to the week one's discussion questions, and getting at some of the power and larger discourse around psychotropic medications and how that informs who we give them to, how often we prescribe them, is a really important thing to keep in mind when it comes to Wallenstein's quote as well. Because on the one hand, I see his quote as sort of encouraging us to make sure that we're keeping ourselves mindful of the fact that there's a lot of different ways clients will be impacted by psychotropic meds. And there's also a lot of different ways that clients are going to experience psychological symptoms. But I think another layer of what Wallenstein is saying is that even if we do scientific and medical research that allows us to pinpoint the particular neurotransmitter that a specific psychotropic medication is going to target, there isn't also a way for us to be certain that that specific neurotransmitter that the medication is directly affecting, that neurotransmitter itself is responsible or connected to, per se, the psychological distress that a client may be experiencing. So even when there's a lot of support and emphasis around studies that are able to really pinpoint the neurotransmitter that the medication is going to be affecting, there's still a lot of other extraneous things going on that we don't know that neurotransmitter specifically is responsible for someone's experience. There's probably tons and tons of ways that the brain is functioning that are contributing to the psychological symptoms or experience someone's having. So I think that's another layer to this conversation as well. And I think another piece, going back to the power, a lot of you are talking about the need to really be responsive to the uniqueness of each client. And some of you are talking about how when we sort of generalize and think that, every client that is experiencing depression in this particular way, that sometimes limits the narrative and then our response to how we can help or come alongside someone in a conversation. And I think the piece that I really want to highlight, when I talked in my response to you in email last week, I talked about big pharma and the money and the economy and how all that is sort of a driving force that's connected. And what I'm sensing in your posts is for us to take a case-by-case approach. And while I certainly believe in that, I can also critique our culture, particularly around how we engage in treatment and the prescriptions of meds, that oftentimes our goal is to try to find a uniform treatment and to not hold open the possibility for lots of different ways to be responsive. And I think part of that ties to our culture's emphasis around efficiency, around quick fixes, around standardization of care. And while I don't want to position those things as not being helpful or not being something that we should work towards, I think we can also turn a lens of critique on that and see how that props up or supports sort of that neoliberalist market economy where it's really about profit, about time. Time is money. So the quicker and more efficient we can be in helping people, then that's sort of what's going to be supported in our discourse and in our practices. So just another layer of something to be thinking about too, about how we in our own profession as counselors can resist some of that influence, which it sounds like most of you in your posts recognize that to some degree and sort of support being able to take a more case-by-case approach. And I just would also encourage you to think further about when you're out in the fields practicing and you're beyond this program, either as an LPCC or as a school counselor, how you are going to sort of maintain a commitment to approaching people as people and being able to engage with them from the perspective that they are unique, and how we can approach and have conversations with them are going to be unique to their particular context as well. So I love the post that you guys are offering. And I just also wanted to add that extra layer of how this becomes important, not just because we need to see clients as unique, but it's also important because it sort of reveals another layer of a line of force and power that often dictates how we help people in our culture. So keep up the good work. Next week, I'll try to do some typed responses so that you don't have to see me on video. Although sometimes I think since you're reading so much, this might be a nice way to get feedback and you can play it and listen, be doing other things at the same time. But hope you are all well, and I'll be in touch.